Right, so Nathan Jackson, thank you very much. You're officially the first guest on the Old Chinwag.
Thanks, yeah. Privilege.
Congratulations. Thanks. I understand now this time of year is a very busy time of year for you, so I do appreciate you taking the time out of your Saturday, which I know it's rare you get a Saturday off, so I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, no worries. To be honest, I'm not like the farm I work for because they're a charity and it's all around mental health. I'm very lucky that the pace that they want to keep is very reasonable, you know. It's not
Yeah, they
it's
don't want
not it's not like it's worse for the commercial. If you're a commercial organic farmer, they would be having a lot of rough work at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, they don't want to drive you mad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Be a bit counterproductive that.
Yeah. So, where to start? So, basically, for anyone who doesn't know, which is everyone, you're a farmer specialising in organic vegetables. Um, so, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your background. It's my understanding you don't actually own any land. And obviously, you
No,
didn't when you went into farming. So,
no.
I find that interesting because I think that's probably one of the main things that would put people off getting into farming,
Mm.
either theoretically learning about it in college or applicating it in their life. But so
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
us a little bit about your journey. What's your background, and how did you get into
Sure,
farming?
yeah. Sure, yeah. Um, yeah, so I started off. I did a degree in botany back in 2003 or 2004 thereabouts, and then I finished like around 2008,
Mm,
and that was the start of the recession there. That happened in 2007, 2008. Like, so there wasn't a whole lot of jobs knocking around, and I realized that like a lot of the jobs if you do a science degree now, most of the jobs are in like the pharmaceuticals. Be working in labs maybe, might be working on agri-chemicals like pesticides and herbicides and things for an agri-chemical company or something like that. So I just realized I didn't want to be stuck in a lab actually all the time, you know. Um,
good
and
choice.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, and I ended up uh, out of work, and I was living my yeah. I basically I also around the same time started learning about a lot of the like environmental issues that are arising and sustainability issues that are arising in farming. I mean, you could do a whole fucking hour-long podcast probably on that, like But
Yeah, for sure.
uh, uh, so I was also aware, like I grown up in Selbridge here in Kildare, so it was a fairly like suburban town. Nobody knew about how to grow food. Like food was bought in the shops. It arrived from somewhere. So I'm kind of aware that as a society we don't really a lot of us understand how food production works. So yeah, I just wanted to learn about that basically, and
Yeah.
I just happened to be lucky enough that my mum, in her house, it's one of those old houses, but she inherited from my grandparents, and it has a big vegetable garden in the back, which we never used, like because that kind of stuff wasn't really done in the 90s, you know.
Mm,
So I started off growing on that, yeah, and then I ended up meeting some people in Selbridge who wanted to start like a community farm. So the idea is that people who were getting the produce would own the farm and get pay the farmer kind of thing.
mm.
Um, so I ended up doing that for 4 or 5 years, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Like I just did a few, after I worked there, I worked for a few different other places, and then I ended up meeting this John, John McKeown, the guy who runs the charity that I work for now, and they were looking to start a farm, so he ended up hiring me. That's kind of where I'm at now.
Well, we'll get into the organisation now in a few minutes because that's interesting in and of itself, apart from the farming. But so, um, or being you're certified organic, okay? Now, before actually
Yeah,
we go on, I just want to clarify because I've seen the vegetable patch you're talking about, the first one you started working out. It is essentially just a garden.
yeah,
it's not a huge space. It's not 3 acres long by 2 acres wide. I mean, it's just a back garden, which, by the looks of things, if my memory serves, you had kind of incorporated it into a vegetable garden. You were very much maximizing the space. You know, it wasn't plentiful. So that's just for anyone listening who thinks, all right, it's all right for this guy. He had a veggie patch already out his back, but it is just a garden. Because I remember, you know, you might have turned it into a veggie patch, but I mean, you're not alone in, like, it's bigger than my garden, but I mean, there's probably plenty of people that have a garden twice the size of yours, or they can produce plenty of food for their family out of a garden half the size of yours.
No,
You
I'd
know?
say it was only, I can't remember exactly, but it's around an eighth of an acre. No, certainly not anymore, you know. So
Yeah.
it's not a big space, yeah.
So just before we go into the organization, can you tell me what are some of the challenges facing you as a certified organic veg farmer, which makes life tough and maybe you wouldn't face if you were just straight up doing regular farming?
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest challenge is that vegetable prices have been driven incredibly low by the supermarkets. So the amount you can actually get for, like, that garden I had, my grandparents' one, you know, that was I probably made between 3 and 4 thousand euro a year off the vegetables I grew there. Now the what didn't was by no it didn't take full time work or anything. It was probably, like, I was probably doing 20 to 30 hours during the summer and maybe just 10 over the winter kind of thing. So it was more, you know, but it still wasn't enough to live on. Like, at the time, I was on the back to work enterprise allowance. You know, I don't know if you remember that, but it was like they give you the dole basically if you were starting a business. You know, so
Yeah.
my goal was to replace the dole once that ran out.
Yes.
So it obviously wasn't enough space to do that, and then that's how I got with the community farm. Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, the biggest challenge that faces growers is that the price of food is so low that they can't make enough money to cover the cost of production. You know, and pay
Yes.
themselves a reasonable
Yeah.
enough wage to do it. Like, you know,
Yeah.
um,
So
yeah,
you're on a full-time wage there. You're like a paid employee, but
yeah.
I mean, so the way it is currently, could you afford to hire in more people, or is, you know, you're producing enough to
Not
cover costs and pay your wage?
Yeah, not even. So
Okay.
they, uh, yeah, so we can't really afford to hire anyone else at the moment. We get a lot of voluntary help. So there's probably
Okay.
about 50 to 60 hours a week of volunteers there. And that kind of makes up another employee, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it depends on the season of whether or not we break even on that. You know what I mean? Like, the
Mm-hmm.
weather in Ireland is very variable. So, like, last year was very productive, but this year so far it's been a bit dry, so it's not we don't we can't call it yet, but it may not be nearly as productive, you know. So yeah, so it's not really, like, it's only financially viable as a thing because the goal of the charity is building a mental health therapy centre and all that, and it's worth their while having the farm up and going. And I think we will certainly break even at some point,
Yeah.
but it you know, you could do it like two or three of me around, you know, and I don't know if it'll ever,
Yes.
like, produce the wages for that many people. Uh,
Yeah. So, as in terms of a profitable business, it's not the best idea to get into it for that reason, which, I mean, that's probably pretty obvious. It's not the reason why I recommend people get into it. The reason why I'm harping on, and the reason
yeah,
why I thought it'd be great, and I'm saying it to anyone who listen about, look, people, start growing your own food. I'm doing so. I'm not doing loads, but I'm doing a lot more than I did last year, you know? Um,
yeah,
but the reason why I'm harping on to people about it is because we've all lived in a bubble, a post World War II bubble, where everything's been. I know the quality of life has gotten better and better, but I mean, in terms of food, it's been pretty much available.
mm,
And this bubble that we've lived in just seems like it's ready to burst. For me, I'm sitting here, I'm just working away, doing my thing. It does feel like it's ready to burst. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
the knowledge of knowing how to grow food and actually taking the time to grow food for yourself and for your family is going to become more and more important over the next 10 years. Could be a lot sooner than that, but I mean, in my opinion, by the time we hit 10 years from now, so
Yeah,
2036, the people who haven't learnt how to produce their own food and become self-sufficient at least a lot more than we all are currently, there's gonna be bad times coming. They're gonna suffer, I think. So
yeah, yeah,
I just think it's time. All said and
yeah,
done, it's been great, but I think it's time for even the price of veg, the price of food in general, the price of to power your house, to keep your car with fuel in it to get to work. Everything
yeah,
is going to go through the roof. The only thing that is actually not too bad is like your vegetables. You can still go in and get a net of onions for whatever, under €1 or
yeah,
whatever. But this isn't going to stay like this, I don't believe. So this is why I thought it'd be interesting to get you on, because you're out there, you're doing it, you're local to me, but also because if I can inspire even one person to start just thinking this way, I'd be happy out, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right.
So
I
look,
mean, I think you're broadly right. Like even just the recent war in the Middle East. I mean, the 30% of the world's fertilizer comes out of the Middle East. So a lot of the food the majority, I'd say, of the food we produce relies on that fertilizer. And at least 50% of it does. So
absolutely.
we will definitely see a reduction in food yields, which will mean an increase in the prices. It's
Yeah.
inevitable over the next few years.
And it's happening, but we don't even have to harp on about the pressure the farmers are getting put under now. Restrictions on what they can grow, being forced to leave fields empty in the name of global warming or climate change. It's not going to get better anytime soon. Whether it's purposely being done or whether it's just happenstance it's happening this way, I think it's irrelevant because the result's going to be the
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
We can
The
sit here
results
trying
will
to
be the
work out,
same. Yeah, yeah,
is this on purpose? Is it just happening? Doesn't matter. The fact of the
yeah,
matter is there is food shortages coming. I mean, that should be obvious
yeah,
to anyone who it's
yeah,
not obvious by now, fine. But it's time to
mm,
start thinking about that in my belief. So this is why I thought you'd be a great guest to get on. But I think now this is a good time to segue into my next question, which is tell me about the organization. Can you tell me about the organization? Um, so it's not just a farm, it's a part of a wider organization. And I'm just going to break it up into a couple of questions. So, how did the organization come about? Where is it at now? And where do you plan to be when you can turn around and say, okay, we've completed everything we set out to do. Let's forget about when that's going to be. But I mean, how did it come about? Where are you now? And where do you plan to be? Just so we can kind of give people a scope. We'll kind of break it down into a 3-act structure, kind of,
yeah, yeah,
so we
yeah.
can kind of just give people the full scope of what's going on, what you're doing up there. Because the growing the
Yeah,
vegetables, let's
sure, yeah.
face it, although it's great, it's a very, very small part of a bigger project.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, so the charity was started by a man called John McKeown. The charity is called Kiri Therapeutic Farm.
Sorry, say
And
that again.
he
Key Reed.
Kiri Therapeutic Farm. Yeah,
So can you
Kiri.
spell that for me?
Yeah, yeah, it's Kyrie.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kiri.
um, yeah, Kiri. Yeah. Uh,
Kiri Farm. And yous are based out of Ardloch, County Kildare.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
That's
We're
the right
just
dress, yeah?
about a kilometre outside our clock village. Yeah. We're just
Brilliant.
at the base of Ord, which is the monastic site where Arthur McGuinness is buried. Arthur McGuinness
Okay.
is buried.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's probably that's a very well known landmark near you anyway.
it is. Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure it helps
yeah.
when you're getting deliveries.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful spot actually. If anyone wants a nice afternoon near Maynooth, head up to Ord. It's a lovely little place.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, so the charity started. Unfortunately, John and his family had a horrific experience with mental health, where his son had very severe depression, and eventually died by suicide. And that put John on a kind of obviously threw his life up in the air, like and put him on a kind of journey of trying to figure out better ways to treat mental health. At the moment, a lot of people end up in a psychiatric hospital, and it's not actually the best place for them. It can be
Yeah.
for some people, but for a lot of other people, it's not the best place for them.
No, there
So
seems to be this musical tablets kind of approach to mental health. You know,
yeah,
you're not responding well to them. Try some of these and mix with some of these, and you know,
exactly, yeah,
which
yeah,
of course we all know
yeah.
that's not the best way to deal with anything. But anyway,
Mm.
so that's what brought John into it. And how did you and John come about to meet?
Yeah, you've been again just by chance. I know a guy down the country who is starting a sort of community farming project, and I got to know him through shared contacts, I think. And then
Mm.
he got to know John at a conference and said, "Oh, Nathan is working up near you." So, because the charity got a good donation in 2020 or so thereabouts, and they were able to buy the 60 acres of land in our clock. So I was farming nearby them. So yeah, my friend PJ said to John, you should give Nathan a call. He can come up and have a look and give you some advice. So I just kind of got to know John over a year, the first year or so, and then they had gotten planning permission to build a therapy centre from Kildare County Council, and there was some objections to it locally, so it ended up on board Penala. So it's going to be stuck there for about 3 or 4 years. So that's when they decided that they needed to start the farm. And he
Hmm.
said, "Look, Joe, do you want to work with us?" Yeah,
Brilliant. The
how it came
rest is
about.
history, as they say.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So, where are we at now? Where are you guys at in terms of your trajectory and how is it going? I understand like the vegetables are never going to be a profit driver as we've spoke about already, but
Yeah, yeah.
um, so
Yeah,
where are you at now?
it's been going well. Like, I mean, on the farm, we managed to get the farm up and working. We've invested a lot in polytunnels and irrigation and machines for the tractors and so on. And we've managed to organise a good bit of volunteer help, which has been really, really great. So we've got kind of a working farm going. We're selling about 40 bags of vegetables a week for sort of 9, 10 months of the year. Um, so that's why it was going great.
Yeah.
Their goal is to build a therapy center so people can come and they want to have enough space for about 40 people to come and live on the farm, spend a good 6, 9 months there, getting their mental health back together before they go back home or back into the community, and provide supports for them once they do leave. Um, but they need about 30 million to do that. It's a substantial amount of money is needed to build all that. So they're just at the moment they're trying to get funding from a mixture of private and public service sources.
Hmm.
So we're still kind of waiting to see if that'll happen. I mean, at some point we'll have to make a plan B, I'd say, but we're hoping that side of it will happen because it'll be the best thing for the people coming.
Yeah. Well, I think getting on the internet and having a chat about it can't hurt, you know.
Mm.
At least if we can make more people aware of what you are trying to do up there. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
what's it going to look like when all's said and done? I know there's a quite a long entrance way down onto the farm. Is how
Mm.
much of it's going to remain a farm? How much of it's going to be paved? Is it going to be just like
Yeah, yeah.
the dwellings, the center, let's
Yeah.
say, with a car park around it, and the rest left to farm, or what do you envision?
Yeah, well, no, the vision is to kind of nestle the buildings into the farm, so there'll be 6 buildings for people with individual apartments for people to live in, and then there'll be a big community building. There won't be a particularly massive car park. There'll be enough space for the staff. There'll be a good few staff needed. So there'll be space for the staff to park, and there'll be space for family and friends of the guests who are staying to come and visit them and that. But most of it will be. We've turned about 4 hectares of about 8 acres into the vegetable beds, and then a lot of it will be reforested. There'll be a huge amount of trees planted. We'll also plant a lot of permaculture type areas with like forest gardens and perennial kind of foods. And then we'll have a certain amount of it that's pasture as well, so we can have a small number of animals. We'll raise a bit chickens for meat, and we'll maybe have goats and sheep and stuff like that. We've got 2 donkeys currently, they don't do much, but they're nice to have around.
Yeah.
Um, but like we will in time have a good few animals as well because that's great for you know there'll be a lot of people who don't particularly enjoy sowing or planting or weeding, but might enjoy work with the animals.
Yeah, I agree because I'm familiar myself with in a lot of prisons in America where you do it on these, and they do it in these programs with people who are lifers. They're never getting out anyway,
Mm,
and you'd imagine if the relationship between human and animal wasn't going to go well anywhere, to be amongst a bunch of people who don't even get on with other humans, who've killed someone or
sure.
killed several, or you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was a huge success. It was a huge
Mm,
success. They noticed, when they gave people, some lads, depending on the animal, got to keep it in their cell. It's like that's
yeah,
yours to
yeah,
mind. It was kind of like an adoptive center, but they provided the food and stuff. But some animals did get to stay, but they noticed serious like decrease in violent behavior, arguments, everything like that. So that definitely, I believe, having animals to take care of, it's something else other than yourself. Someone who's having problems stops them thinking about their problems.
yeah.
But that kind of brings me to my next question. All right, so who exactly is going to benefit from this project? Is it going to be, what I'd be thinking, is it going to be people who are having severe mental health problems in terms of, they need to be pulled out of society, they're a danger to themselves or a danger to other people, they need some help? Is it going to be, my thoughts did go to the alcohol and drug addicted, because I'm thinking,
Mm,
they're obviously they're a huge problem with them in across the Western world now. I mean, across the world in general, I
mm,
imagine. But my other group I was thinking of is just people who are burnt out. These guys may
yeah,
be in
yeah,
a high stress job and mortgaged up to the hilt. Even when they realise how I could do with a break, they usually don't
yeah,
take it until it's too late. Like where they're really just stressed, then where they should have took a break before it got to that point. But
mm,
is there any? Is there any? I don't know if there's any programs in place, or will there be, where if someone's just, let's say, if they go to the doctor with burnout, is there going to be any situation where a doctor could sign them off for a month and say, look, you need to just, you can go up to this place if you want, no bills, no stress, you help out, grow a bit of veg, go around, feed the animals, do everything at your own pace, no one's slave driving you, and just take a few weeks off. I think, and this, my thinking on it in the farming and stuff like that, and I've said it's going to start to play a much bigger role in our everyday lives. But I mean, in my opinion, everyone who's living our lifestyle could do a heading to a farm for a week just to
yeah. I agree
relax,
with you. Yeah,
and enjoy
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and smell the roses, so to speak, smell the
yeah, yeah,
carrots.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, totally.
so who is going to benefit from it? Do you think?
Well, I mean, basically, there's a whole other, like I'm just involved in the farm side of it. There's another group of people who are working on the program and
Mm,
how actual therapy is going to go. So I may get some of this wrong, but from what I've heard from them, basically the way it's gonna work is that it's for people. So there's some people who it's not for. Like, we can't deal with severe psychosis stuff, for example. We're not going to be, we don't want to, it needs to be a nice place to hang out. And if you've got to have like, locked rooms and shit about the place, it's not going to be a nice. So there's a certain amount of people who's not suitable for in that sense, and then have to continue to go to standard
mm-hmm.
psychiatric hospitals. It's generally going to be for people who've maybe been done a stint in a psychiatric hospital, and they're now in a slightly more stable place, but they're not really ready to go back out home or wherever, into a new place or whatever in the community.
Mm,
Or might be people who are in danger of going into a psychiatric hospital, that their issues are getting quite severe, maybe severe depression. They might be a lot of danger of them committing suicide or that kind of thing. So they might have to end up going into a psychiatric hospital, but they're not severe enough that they have to. So it might be better
yes.
for them to like come into our place for a while rather than do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of what you're saying about people who are experiencing burnout, I don't know exactly where the line is. There is kind of a line where the system decides you definitely need some help here, and they're the kind of people who will be funneled towards us.
Mm,
Um, but I don't know to what extent we can provide that service generally. I mean, I know the goal of the charity is that the reason why they want to have the 40 beds on the farm, for 40 places for people to stay on the farm, is that actually if you built, if they proved the model with our farm and you built four more of them, then you'd be increasing with five of them, you'd actually providing 40 beds, so 200 beds in total, you'd actually be increasing the number of psychiatric beds available by like 20%. So there's
Mm.
only 1,000 places in the whole country anyway. So five
Yes.
of these farms would provide 200 more. So if the general idea catches on and you get more and more of these places being built, then a lot more people who are like, yeah, experiencing burnout at work, and need a 3 4 month break can get access to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, very cool. Well, hopefully, there's somewhere for people to go because it's widespread. Everyone's burnt out,
yeah, yeah,
in general, and just with our lifestyle, people are working so hard and just rolling their money right up to the banks. The vast majority of
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And
sure, yeah,
with a mortgage and other, even without the mortgage, household bills are crazy. Everything, keeping a car on the road, raising kids, all this. You just, even if you decided here, I could do it 2 or 3 weeks off. Most people can't afford it. It's like,
yeah,
okay, if I
yeah,
if I
totally,
wanted 2 or 3 weeks off, I should have been saving for 3 or 4 months.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
a sad
exactly.
truth, but so I would just kind of segue off that for a minute. Now this mightn't be your forte, but I just said I'd say to you because I have a feeling you have a couple of ideas. Like I've noticed myself, being out on my travels or whatever. Every apple season, you see like tens of apple trees in random gardens, in housing estates. But every one I've noticed, maybe if people are eating off them, I don't know. They're certainly not eating them all. But the vast
Hmm.
majority of them fall to the ground and rot. And I'm just thinking there's probably a large percentage of people living in the area of where these trees are ignoring that fruit, walking by it, and
Hmm.
then grabbing a wax covered apple from the supermarket and putting it in their
Yeah,
child's
yeah,
lunchbox heading out to school. I mean,
yeah,
that's beyond idiotic in my opinion. But
yeah, yeah,
it's not surprising, because just
yeah.
people are just following their programming. So have you any ideas what can people do? I know there's people with apple trees and stuff, but they eat a small portion of them. And even in their own back garden, they just rot to the ground and
Hmm.
the worms will get them. What can people do? I know there's people, you can buy apple juice with some ginger in it and people take it as a shot every morning or whatever. So, I mean, there's that. But is there anything else that people can do with their apples in
Hmm.
apple season to put them to use to maybe keep drip feeding that nutrition into themselves during the winter?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like it's. I would say that the people I mean, I'm not personally always the best at using these things well. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Actually, I
Yeah.
hear a lot more from my customers about good ideas than I manage to implement myself. But but someone like for the people I know who do use them well, what they do is you want to like make really good use of them when they're available. So they come, you tend to see there's like a load of them in September, sort of September is really the first few weeks of October kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, so they'd like make a lot of like, a lot of the ones I tend to see are Bramleys, the cooking apple. You know what I mean? So they'd make like loads of apple puree out of it. Just cook them down with a bit of sugar, and you can freeze that then, and it'll keep. Or you can even put it into jars. You put it in hot. Um, to find someone on YouTube who'll show you how to do it. I don't know,
Mm.
but you can do it in a safe way where it keeps in the jar for ages. And then they just use that all winter for like making apple pies and crumbles and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of keeping them fresh, like the only thing you have to bear in mind is that the ones you pick up off the ground generally have to be used pretty quickly because they've hit the ground.
Yeah.
They will have bruised or damaged a bit, so they won't last very long.
Yeah, and they
Um,
are once they've come off the tree, they are dying. Like it's.
yeah, yeah. So, but you can make them last. Like I've kept them till after Christmas by just like if you pick them off the tree in good condition and wrap them up in newspaper or you can put them in a box with sand is another thing people do just so they're not touching each other
Mm.
basically. Because some of them will rot, but
Yeah.
others won't. and the ones that don't rot, like you can keep using fresh much later. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's also different types of apples. So some apples come in early, but no, maybe aren't very good for storing. Other ones
Yeah.
come in later and are very good for storing. So you have to get a bit, you have to get to know the apple tree you're picking from.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Again,
some are
yeah,
good.
I'm not looking for any absolute definitive answer. It's more just to
Yeah,
discuss
yeah,
it because it is. I see like I'd be going around and with travels, I'd be in various neighborhoods and stuff throughout the day, and I always grab a few apples like every day during apple season because they
mm,
are just falling to the ground, but they're absolutely
yeah,
delicious. Like
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
an apple from the shop doesn't belong. It's not fit to go occupy the same lunchbox as one of these apples. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
night and day. The flavor, the freshness. It's the
And then
hydration you
I
get
think
from it.
the main difference to keep in mind, like the ones in the shop are bred and designed to store well and be available for a long time, so they can provide. Whenever you go to the shop, no matter what time of year it is, they're there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas more traditional apples aren't like that, so people use them differently,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but they are much more flavoursome, and
Yeah.
you can have like we planted an orchard up to about 80 trees in the first year, and they're just starting to come kind of good now,
Yeah.
about 4 years later, whatever it is, and like we have a variety, we have loads of different varieties, so that you get ones early and then you have ones that keep late and all that.
Yeah.
Um, and there's other good ideas, like there's a group in Cork called Future Forests, I think, and they have an orchard themselves, but they also one of the things they do with the apples is they juice them all. If you get an apple press, you can make loads and loads of juice, or
Mm.
cider if you want to ferment it. Um, and they offer a service. They certainly did at one point in time. I don't know if they still do, but they offer a service to people in the community where if you wanted to gather up your apples, they would juice them for you, kind of thing. Um, so that's another thing that I think communities probably should invest in is that if you have, it costs a few thousand to set up an apple press, but then hundreds and hundreds of people can make good use of it,
Yeah.
make an apple juice when they're available.
Well, I think someone with a engineer's brain would make an apple press fairly quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, you
A
certainly can.
hydraulic press on it, like a
Yeah,
vice kind of clamp situation. Throw the apples into the bucket and press the vice down on top
yeah,
of them.
yeah.
So yeah, it wouldn't be very complex, but yeah, definitely. I think that's and like I'm saying about the farming, I think apples are going to play a big part in our future. You know.
Yeah, well, they're one of the most productive fruits here. Apples and
Yeah.
plums. Plums are very good too.
Yeah, plums. And so I actually had a question about are you planting any apple trees or any orchards up in the farm? So you've answered that. So 80 you done the first year. Have you planted more since that again?
Yeah, we planted another section about the same size. That was a mixture of different things. I wasn't actually involved in much in planting it, so I don't remember what's in there. But I'm pretty sure it was the likes of plums and a few different kinds of nuts, like hazelnuts and that kind of thing. Um, and I can't remember. I'll be making it up now if I said it to you. But there was a
Yeah.
wide variety of different fruits.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird fruits like medlar and quince that we don't use anymore, but they're very
Mm.
productive here. And some of them, like I think it's the medlar, where it keeps really well through the winter. Like
Yeah.
it actually tastes best when it's getting near rotten. Um,
Yes, I've heard about
so
someone was mentioning actually that specific breed of apples. It could have been you yourself, but
maybe.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm going to look into that medlar. That's interesting.
Like
Yeah,
planting trees trees like apples and stuff is something that a lot of people I think can do. A lot of people there's a lot of corners and housing estates and stuff that aren't used.
yeah,
And you just maybe can talk to the local residents association and get general agreement from people around that you planted 20 or 30 fruit trees in there. It would be useful,
yeah.
um,
I
and
find when people are coming together, especially the way we live currently and trying to get things like this done, it's hard to get more than 5 or 6 people to agree on anything.
yeah, no, that is true. Yeah,
Specifically in a neighborhood where
yeah, yeah,
it's not like it's a random field where or maybe you just have a lease on it where it's kind of when people are like I'm living here, a lot of people you'd be surprised when you're like no, the plan is to just grow some veg and You know, anyone can eat it at once. We're hoping to have enough for everyone. And well, no, you know, you'd meet problems. Like, it happens, you know. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about permaculture. What's your opinion on it? And would you advise people to start studying it if they're thinking to do what I'm talking about and what I'm doing, which is just producing a bit of food out of their own garden? I mean, does it apply? Does permaculture principles apply well in Ireland? Is a lot of what permaculture is about not apply because Ireland? Because I mean, I do understand permaculture was to try and make. Originally, I believe it was to try and make very dry areas productive. But we as a country are the complete opposite of that. We have too much water most of the year. So what's your opinion on it, and how does it apply to Ireland? Let's say an organic veg farm versus a regular farm. Is it something that you find yourself using every day or glad you know a bit about, or is it a thing where, no, it'd be not so much in our setup, you know?
Yeah, sure. Well, like, I mean, again, I'm not there's a thing called a permaculture design course. And the fundamental of being good at a bit of knowing about permaculture is doing a permaculture design course, and I haven't done one. So,
Okay.
somebody listening might correct this if they have. But from what I understand, yeah, you know, the whole it's about building about building your lifestyle and food production system around the natural ecosystem, essentially, and mimicking the natural ecosystem as best possible. So the version of it that's often used here is called a food forest, where you're essentially, you know, you plant some just big native trees, you know, that help provide overall cover, and then you have maybe like smaller fruit trees underneath that, and then you have, you know, underneath the fruit trees you might have perennial or planted kind of products that, you know, you might plant some squashes or some potatoes in amongst them, or you might have like perennial food bushes or strawberries or things like that. So you're getting it. So it's kind of, you're creating a very low maintenance system, something where you don't have to be interfering much by adding fertility or digging it up or anything like that, and it just kind of looks after itself and gives back food or other benefits. Now, I think a lot of the most developed permaculture farms and things are in much drier climates than ours, you know, like Australia. So
Yeah.
a lot of what they focus on is actually building the system, building the whole system so like it captures the most amount of moisture, you know, and that
Yeah.
you don't have to be doing irrigation or anything like that, but you're just capturing the natural moisture and producing food on it, you know.
Yeah.
In Ireland it is a bit different than that because we have, you know, we've no end of rain a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's the only thing you know, you might find if you do a permaculture design course that you don't actually learn a whole lot that's applicable to Ireland, you know what I mean? Because you're kind of more learning about the wider principles and all that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So, foraging. I want to talk a little bit about foraging. Again, I know it's not a direct correlation to what you're doing right now and stuff like that, but I do, again, like I'm saying, I think farming is going to become rather important to us. I think then if you were solely dependent on what you're farming, I think foraging is going to play a big part in it. I've known some for years, but I've recently, from doing a bit of research into it and stuff, I've started to figure out just how much an abundance of food and really, really healthy food is available everywhere, all around us. Like, I don't know if you know the plant cleavers. We call it, some people call it
yeah,
sticky
yeah,
willy. You know, you'd be throwing it at your friends as
yeah,
a kid, it sticks to the clothes.
yeah, yeah,
That is an amazing food for, in terms of disease fighting properties, let's say. Now, you don't eat it, you soak it in water for about an hour just to let any bugs or anything in it escape. And then you put it in a beaker of water and fill it and leave it in the fridge overnight. So you're trying to give it 12 hours, let's say, just to... And then you come back the next morning, strain it off and drink it. It tastes just like cucumber water.
yeah.
Except for it's really, really good for you. Now, we're all like, then the dandelion. We know that, you know, wild lettuce. There's lots of different foods out there, but we're all programmed, if we see that in our garden, to yank it out.
Yeah, I know, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we all do
yeah.
it, you know. So, What I'd ask you is, if let's say like you are farming up there at the minute and you were solely dependent on that food. Let's say the cosmos interferes and there's a cataclysm and there is no shops or there's no food coming to it. How big a part do you think foraging would play, and how much could you subsidize your diet from foraging if you had to? Because I think this is again something that it's only in the last 2 or 3 generations, 2 generations maybe, max, where this has all been lost. You know, the knowledge on what mushrooms to pick versus what mushrooms not to pick, the various different things like that. So the knowledge isn't long gone, but thank God we do live in an internet age where there's information out there. All you have to do is know what you want to look for, and you'll find the information. But just to kind of really, again, it's not that we're looking for any serious schooling here, but how big of a part do you think it would play, and how much could you subsidize your diet if you had to?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of ways it can help, you know. I mean, I think a lot of the things, ways where the benefit is what you were saying there about kind of health and, nutrition, in the sense that, like, you know, wild plants tend to have a higher variety of nutrients in them than, say, a cultivated one, or a lot of the food that we eat. You know, there isn't a whole lot of nutrition in a lot. Farmers tend to put like the core nutrients in that the plant needs to grow well. We don't tend to put enough of the kind of smaller nutrients, like, so again, you can talk about this for a whole hour, but I try not to get caught up in in too many details, but like,
Yeah,
so
pick your battles.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But, you know, wild plants tend to be better at scavenging all those little nutrients and stuff, so you'll get much higher level of nutrients than you will out of cultivated stuff. I mean, in
Probably have
terms of
much deeper
calories,
roots as well, maybe.
yeah, that's it. They tend to be like the dandelions are perennial. The root goes real deep down and it gets stuff,
Yeah,
exactly. And you can eat like
yeah.
all parts of the dandelion, the root and the leaf and everything. You know, the leaf can be a bit bitter. You have to figure out to cook it properly or blanch it or something to make it easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. You know, I think it can be a great supplement to your diet. I mean, it's not gonna if there's a cataclysm and suddenly Ireland can't import any food, it's probably not going to save us, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, just because, you know, I mean, the country doesn't have enough wild space left, and there's so many people that it just wouldn't. It'd be a bit of a fight over what's there, you know.
Mm.
Um, but I think it can, in combination with growing, you know, vegetables like potatoes and there's other ones that we don't use, like Jerusalem artichoke, that have a lot of calories in them, you know.
Mm.
If you like the things that we could forage that would be of a high calorie benefit. Like if there was a cataclysm, the first thing I'd be doing probably is making sure to gather acorns when I see them available, because you can get a lot of starch out of acorns. Now it has to be, you can't just eat it. It has to be leached properly, and it's not straightforward. But like
Mm.
we know from like medieval times that people relied a lot on things like acorn flour in bad times, you know. And
Yeah.
hazelnuts is the other thing. We have lots of hazelnuts in the country, you know, and you can get a lot of calories out of those.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure. Yeah.
but you know, um, but in a way that combines with the kind of permaculture stuff. Like if you're gonna need a load of hazelnuts, probably the smartest thing to do, if you can, is if you have somewhere where you can plant what's called a cob nut, which is it's just a hazelnut that's particularly productive. Um,
Yeah.
it's kind of a sort of semi-domesticated variety that produces a lot of acorn, a lot of hazelnuts. You
Yeah.
can plant one of those, and then you'd have a good supply of them, you know.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, that's brilliant. And of course, nettles.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, you throw a
Well,
handful of nettles in with a few potatoes, a few onions. You know, you've got a pretty decent soup on your hands.
yeah.
Bit of
I
stock,
mean,
maybe.
I think probably the hardest thing for us actually, Joe. Like I don't do a whole lot of foraging, but I do a little bit. I make like elderflower cordial and
Mm.
elderberry cordial and rosehip cordial for the winter. But rosehip tea is another one, you know, because the nutritional benefit is great.
Yeah.
But my biggest challenge is making sure to get it in the window that it's available. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
these things are available for
Um.
for a 2 to 4 week
So I
window,
understand
and
that.
you gotta remember to go out and get it while it's there. You know.
Of course. Yeah. If you're gonna get into foraging, you need to like have a schedule. No, all right, this is available now. This is available now, because you will.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll slip. It'll slip by you. Like, You know, for instance, there's plenty,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you say, the end of September, the start of October is a great time for foraging. But, I mean, if you find
yeah.
yourself busy around then times and you don't get out, you miss out for the year, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Like that's, I mean, in general with growing stuff, that's the biggest issue I've had or had to get over. Like, is
Mm,
that there's a whole kind of natural cycle to things,
yeah,
and it doesn't fit at all with our modern lifestyle or our modern cycle.
yeah,
Um, so there's a lot, so we're just not. That's a lot of the reason why people fail at it. You know what I mean? So like they try and grow a garden of vegetables, but then they're away for 2 weeks in the summer on holidays, and that's the 2 weeks when it really needs watering. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And it lines up like people back when we were relying off local produce. That wasn't the case. Like your whole life was built around the growing
yeah.
stuff and you know what I mean? If the watering was needing doing, you just did it like when it was
Yeah, it
needed
was
to. And
certainly the way life was for my grandfather, because
yeah.
my father's told me loads about, he was always the farthest they'd probably go. He used to go up to Dublin with his cows and all, or with sheep to the mart. But
Mm.
that was it. That was it. The rest of the time they were in and around the bloody farm at all times. And like
Yeah,
that, I
exactly.
think
Yeah.
not along with growing his own food, he was working a farm for someone else, one of these wealthy
Mm.
landowners. So
Yeah.
yeah, there certainly wasn't time to head off to Spain for 2 weeks.
No, like yeah, but I mean, I suppose what's happening nowadays that people are finding more and more that their budget is stretched and they actually can't go doing the things that they used to do. I mean, they might be fine they're knocking around town more
Mm,
because they can't afford to take
yeah.
the trip or whatever. You know what I mean? So, I think if we find ourselves more and more in that position, we can start doing what people used to do and spend that time, growing our own stuff.
Yeah, and obviously, like we said, potatoes are going to play a huge role in it. Obviously,
Mm.
like just like our ancestors did, because they can be stored for ages. They're very versatile and they're easy to grow. Getting a
Mm.
load of rain over the summer isn't really going to kill you with potatoes.
Mm.
They tend to be
Yeah,
able
yeah.
to just suck it up, so to speak, and keep on going. Can you tell me a couple of other veg? I understand the butternut squash, after being grown, can sit on your counter for months. Is that true?
Yeah, so squashes keep really well, yeah. I'll just clarify with that one. The butternut squash itself is actually a bit of a pain in the arse to grow in Ireland. There's a
Okay.
few, there's a, if you have a polytunnel, it can work great, but it's otherwise a bit of a pain in the arse. There's a few other varieties of squash that do much better and are much more reliable.
Oh, yeah,
And they keep, if you keep them in a relatively cool part of your house, they'll often last through to the next April. You'll harvest them in October, and they'll still be there in April, May the following year.
yeah.
You know, and they're fairly
So,
straightforward and easy to grow as well.
so you've got squash. I'm assuming is turnip. Would turnip be the same?
Yeah, well, the other kind of is squash potato, and then the other three that are quite good in Ireland, I think, and provide a lot. Well, yeah, they all work really well, and they provide a lot of nutrition. They have a lot of calories in them. Would be leek, turnip, and cabbage. You
Yeah,
know, our ancestors would have grown a lot of those three things on top of the
yeah,
potatoes, and it's because they work really well. They're reliable. It's straightforward to grow once you understand it, and
yeah,
they look.
yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, like people, our ancestors, they weren't growing food recreationally like a lot of people are nowadays. Even the ones that are doing it, it's recreational. They're not going to starve if it doesn't come in. So
Yeah,
the stakes are a bit different. But this is my whole point. I think the stakes are going back towards where they were for our ancestors. You know,
yeah, yeah. But
and
I think what a lot of people like, obviously, if you don't like those vegetables, you don't have to grow them right now because none of us are fucking starving. You
yeah.
know what I mean? So like, but you see, get used to growing the things that you do like, and
Or
then
the
once you
things
can
that you
do,
eat loads, because yeah,
or your
you
things
then
that you eat
that's how
loads.
you
Yeah,
start
yeah,
filling out
exactly.
your diet with your own food. Yeah, like I've
Yeah,
lots of
exactly.
tomatoes and onions going at the minute because I know every tomato and onion that gets grown here will be et. You know,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's
so
it. Yeah, and then at some point, once you get used to doing that, if in 5, 10 years time, they go, oh shit, actually the supermarkets aren't going to fill up this year. You can start, you convert those skills over to leeks, turnips, and cabbage to get you through.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
100%. Now I understand you're an advocate of neighborhood food growing projects.
mm,
How would someone go about getting it off the ground? And what kind of obstacles would they meet in terms of legislative? Would they? Do you reckon the local councils would be supportive of this type of thing if people said, "Look, we want to try and grow as much food as we can for ourselves, or we just want, there's plenty of you go into every housing estate, there's plenty of flower beds."
Yeah, yeah,
So, in a lot of places, you could move some of them flower beds into veggie patches, and you've already got your area to grow veg. But
yeah.
although I know you're an advocate for it, is it easily done, or can people expect to have to, go through a load of red tape and fill out a booklet full of forms? No one likes doing that. So it's a real deterrent. If people knew they could just get into it, I'm sure they'd be more likely to.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say anything for certain. I do know that there are people who've managed to get things up and going pretty okay. You know, I don't know enough of the detail. Remember the details correctly enough to say that to give people advice on how to go about it. But I know there are people like a group of the volunteers we have at the farm are from Crumlin, and they're part of a community group there who basically do growing and have a community garden on like an unused plot in Crumlin, right? I don't know.
I've heard of that garden before. Someone has mentioned
Oh,
that
yeah.
a garden in Crumlin. Yeah, so they're on the scene very much, aren't they?
Yeah, they are like so. So you can definitely talk to people like them about how they navigate the county council situation and getting it up and going. You know, like obviously I was involved with Dairy Bag Farm in Selbridge here years ago, and I was involved setting that up. And I mean, basically there was 5 or 6 of us who were spearheading it, and we went to county council and said, look, we want to start this community farm. The idea is that the farm will hire Nathan for 20 hours a week to grow veg for the people who pay a membership fee, you know. Um, and we didn't manage to we talked to a few local politicians, and actually the county council came up with an acre of land there in Selbridge for it, you know. I don't work there anymore, and I'm not actually involved with them I haven't been involved with them in 4 or 5 years, but it's still going here in Selbridge anyway, you know. So it is possible, I think,
Yeah.
to get these things up and going. And personally, I believe that the state needs to be offering substantial plots of land to people. You know, you should be able to apply. Like at the moment, you can apply for an allotment. And there's a bit of a fucking waiting list for a lot of them, unfortunately. But you can get an allotment. Allotment's a great place to start with. You can get you can learn to grow a lot of vegetables on an allotment, and it's well worth doing if people
Yeah.
want to do that. But I think
Yeah.
that you should also be able to apply for a quarter acre or a half an acre of land, so you can like grow a woodlot, keep
Yeah.
chickens, do a wide variety of things, you know.
Yeah.
I think that the country is a bit away from doing anything like that. That's going to take a lot more kind of concerted political will, and
Yeah.
I'd say other people who are demanding it of their politicians, you know.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. So a few projects doing that, so that's good. Just so anyone listening can know, it is possible. And actually, when you go through most neighborhoods, there's always a bit of land here and there that's like just wasteland. It's on the
Yeah,
edge of a
exactly.
hedgerow and it's not being used. The grass has gone dead. Maybe someone had a bit of their fence stashed there for ages and I killed back the grass. And there's plenty of areas. Certainly, if you wanted to do, a small veggie patch, and maybe even depending on how big the area is, you could put in chickens and stuff like that. You'd probably need, I think, once you're under 50 hens, you don't need a herding number, isn't it? Or is it 20?
Yeah, 50. Yeah, I think it's
50,
just
that's
50
brilliant.
is your limit. Yeah,
Like
but
you
you're
wouldn't,
close. Like
you wouldn't need
you,
50 eggs, I don't think, in a small housing estate. You wouldn't need 50 hens, I
no,
mean.
you can,
Because
you can easily keep.
it's 50 eggs every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
exactly.
10
Yeah,
or 12 birds would be brilliant.
yeah,
Everyone take a dozen eggs every day, let's say, and, you know.
yeah.
But, so, sorry, that's me ringing there. Sorry. So,
No worries.
just back to the organisation. Do you sell plants as babies to people who want to grow food? Or do you just sow what you grow yourselves?
Yeah, well, no, we don't sell plants. We sow everything from scratch ourselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've a polytunnel set up as a nursery, and that's where we we grow everything. We start the majority of the plants. So some of them are sown directly into the soil, but most will start
Hmm.
as in a nursery. Now we don't sell them because we don't really have the time. We only have enough time to grow enough for our farm. We do end up giving some away. Like I generally have to sow, 10-20% more than I need in case something goes wrong and a load of them die. So I often end up with extra plants that are left over, so we tend to give them away to people who want them.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, but I mean, there are places that are people that sell the plants, but it generally adds an extra bit of. You'd be probably better off learning to if you don't have someone like me handy who can give you plants.
Yeah.
You're probably be worth learning to do it. It's not
I'm
too
assuming you
hard.
use them to give a few to the volunteers who've helped you and stuff, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Like that group in Crumlin with the community garden, they
Mm.
take a lot of them.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So I was going to ask you, are there any plans to plant up an orchard or keep animals for meat and dairy? But we've touched on that already. So you are doing both of them things. The animals aren't there, yes, but that's part of the future plans, and you do have the orchard planted
No,
up.
yeah, we're kind of building into them. Yeah, yeah. Like this,
Yeah.
we're probably going to get some pigs and some chickens this year, and we'll have
Yeah.
some volunteers helping look after them. We
Yeah.
hope to at least get an egg supply going.
Yeah,
Uh,
that'd be brilliant. It'd be fantastic. You were saying the orchard is just coming in now, at least part of it. So does that mean you're just going to be adding fruit into your veg boxes, or is there going to be then bags of apples for sale separately, or what way will that work?
Uh, we reckon we'll probably just add them in as an item in our bags, but
Mm.
we have to wait and see how the yield is. If we have a lot more of them, then we have more than we can put in those, then we might need to sell them off separately.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, the trees we planted are what's called they're like an older variety of or rootstock of tree, so they grow bigger,
Hmm.
and they therefore take longer to start producing a lot of apples.
Yeah.
So we might be still another 4 or 5 years away from having such an abundance that we're selling them separately. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think generally when people plant up an orchard, it's kind of with the, especially if they're middle-aged men or whatever, it's kind of with the understanding that, yeah, this is really for the next generation. They're
Yeah, that's
they're
the
they're
thing.
going to benefit off of this.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Well, it's often people's motivation to plant trees is that you're waiting so long for the product. But I mean, I just think that
Mm.
like at the moment, the reality is it goes by quicker than you think. Like 4 or 5 years later, they're
Yeah.
coming in,
Yeah.
and you might very well need them in
Yeah.
5 or 10 years time.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I agree. I think it's a great thing that he's planted up the orchard. It's fantastic, in fact. Um, so, what kind of challenges faces yous getting where yous want to? I mean, what kind of financial burden is it? What kind of money do you need
oh
to
yeah,
still raise? If you don't mind talking about that now, and
oh yeah, sure. I
when do
mean,
you think is a
yeah, no,
realistic timeline for achieving your goals?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not involved with the finance team either, so I don't 100% know.
Mm.
I mean, I think the issue really is just that. I mean, yeah, it's a substantial amount of money they need, and I suppose they're trying to get the government to support it. Really, it's what they want.
Yeah.
But politically speaking, we are kind of stuck as a society. So uh, it's slow to happen. You know,
Yeah.
there is money there. Obviously, we all know the government has fucking millions or billions in tech money sitting in a bank account, but it's kind of down to the politics of how you spend that money. And obviously, there's a lot of psychiatric hospitals that are in very run down condition and seriously need an upgrade. So the
Yeah.
people making these decisions are like, him and Han, I suppose, about what thing, this is
Yeah.
novel and it's new for Ireland. It's not actually new, by the way. This whole thing is, I think I forgot to say it earlier, but John learned about this model from America. He visited a farm called Gould Farm that
Mm.
used the exact same model, and Gould Farm has been in existence for over 100 years, right?
Wow.
So this is not a new or novel idea. It's very
Yeah.
well tested and it has much better results than standard psychiatric hospitals. But anyway, it's still, I
Rome
suppose,
wasn't built in a day, though, either. You know.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, and I suppose
So
from a civil servant's point of view, they don't have an example of it here, so they might be hesitant to release the money.
yeah.
Um, so that's my feeling on it. But as I said, I'm not on the finance side of things, so I don't really know for sure.
Again, I think that's good for you. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
that's
Oh yeah,
that's where the
yeah, no.
that's where the stress comes in. You know.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
back when I was doing my own sort of things, it was very managing the money was a stressful side of it, you know. So
Yeah.
it's great to have other people doing that.
Yeah, 100%. So, look, I'm more or less ready to wrap up here. I think you've kind of covered everything I was hoping you'd cover, you know. Um, I have one question for you that I have my own opinions on. I'd be interested to hear yours. How big of a part do you think fresh food or lack thereof and the current food we're exposed to in terms of unnecessary amounts of sugar and everything, unnecessary amounts, and so many additives and preservatives that are still, they only came about really in the 70s if my memory serves, and they're still very alien to our system. So
Mm.
it mightn't necessarily show up where you break out in a rash, but I mean, neurologically we don't know what kind of problems these are causing, but we do know that the mental health crisis is just getting worse, like day
Mm.
by day. It's not getting any
Mm.
better. So how big a part do you think fresh food and nutrition plays in the state of our current mental health crisis? And how big a part do you think it has to play in getting us out of it?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like it's a big part, you know. Like, I mean, from chatting to the mental health team, you know, the psychology team who are involved with the farm, like, it seems to be a lot, like, you know, a lot of people who get stuck in a bad place with their mental health. It's a combination of bad diet, bad lifestyle in general, you know, not being able to keep a good sleep cycle and get out during the day and do stuff, but then also eating a lot of shit food.
Yeah,
You know, definitely plays into it. And people who've gone on a mental health recovery journey usually find that a part of that journey is improving their diet because, you know, at the end of the day, like I think we forget in modern society maybe that we are actually an animal, you know.
yeah,
So you know, when it comes to animals that we look after on a farm, they have a specific type of diet that they need, and if you deviate from that, things go horribly wrong. And
yeah,
humans aren't that dissimilar, like you know what I mean. We did not evolve eating large amounts of sugar. Like you look at hunter-gatherers and stuff, they climb up trees after a wild bee's nest, which is not a fun experience. But like they want the honey so much, it's worth it.
yeah,
It's worth fighting the bees for it, you know,
yeah,
because they don't get sugar. You know what I mean? It's just sugar is not available in their natural diet. You know. Now I'm not myself a saint on that front. I like a nice can of fizzy drink and stuff. Um, so you know. It's when you're surrounded with it all the time. It's very, very difficult to say no. Like all these processed foods are like they're literally designed to hit our dopamine systems in our brain
our hunter
and
gatherer brain. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, get us kind
yeah,
of hooked on them, like you know.
100%.
So it's not like an easy thing to deal with, you know. I mean, a lot of what I focus on in vegetable growing is growing very, very nutrient dense vegetables. Again, it's a whole other talk that, but
Yeah,
basically it means putting as much nutrition into the vegetables as you can, so that like if you're like me and it's only you know you do like a bit of shit food, at least if you're most days you're having a portion of really healthy vegetables, it does
yeah,
do a lot for your mental health, I think.
yeah.
Um,
No, I think you're
but
right. And another thing I was going to mention is anyone who's listening to this conversation and does find themselves, I get the blues, or I do find myself getting very dark moods lately or regularly or whatever. I
mm,
would suggest giving fasting a go. Like 2 or 3 days of fasting. You'd be surprised how much mental clarity you get and how much you actually start feeling better, which we're automatically programmed to think, oh no, if I don't eat any food now for 2 days plus, sure, I'll have no energy. It's the complete opposite. You get an energy burst. You can't believe, like, remember once, I went playing football after I hadn't eaten for maybe 2.5 days. And I thought to myself, even with what I do know about it, I thought, now this might be pushing it, you know, dizzy spells and blah, blah, blah. I couldn't have been more wrong. I was like the Duracell bunny going around the pitch because my whole system was just empty, you know, and I felt as light as a feather running around and stuff. So I would recommend that to people. But one thing I will say as well, if anyone is doing a fast, especially if it's a pretty long one, 2 days plus, make sure you eat the right stuff when you come off it. Don't come off a fast and grab a Domino's, like, because it'll do more harm to you then than it would have done if you were just normally eating it. Like you need after you've starved your body for a bit. If you put a pizza, cheese covered pizza or something into you after that, your body's going to panic and say, this chap's probably not going to eat again for ages. So everything you eat, it'll just want to store it to fat in case you don't eat again. So you actually end up being counterproductive. You end up actually gaining weight from starving yourself. It's completely ridiculous. So I would recommend, if anyone's interested in getting into it, research it properly and just make sure. I mean, you don't need a lot of research. You just don't eat. But definitely you can drink some chicken broth to kind of keep salt levels okay in your body and whatever else. You can make your own, or you can buy some good broths. I'd always recommend making it anyway because of the freshness. But so that's basically it. Like, you know, I, like yourself, that would be my opinion. I think a lot of people who are finding themselves, you know, in a dark place or not able to pull out of it, or, you know, geez, this dark mood I've been having, it's lasting a while now. Probably is something dietary rather than, you know, let's say some sort of trauma you had through your childhood or whatever. Everyone's had traumas through their childhood. I'm not trying to play down people's traumas. Surely they play a part. But generally, a good portion of the time, it's probably to do with what you're doing right now in your life that has you feeling crappy. Not what was done to you or what you experienced early days. We're stuck in this present, you know, and your present can be crap or your present can be great, depending on what you're doing, you know. So, that's basically all I wanted to say in regards to that, you know. But we were talking about the nutrition, but also then, you know, it's like if your car is running crappy, if your car, you can feel, geez, it's very sluggish and this engine of this car isn't running right, you're not just going to pull up the hood and throw a lot of oil in on top of it. A few, you know, packet of meanies in on top, crush them in there, bit of sugar, you know. You're going to clear out, first of all. You're going to bleed the oil out the bottom of that engine. You're going to make sure you clear out the fuel, change the fuel filters, whatever. And then you're going to put nice clean oil into that engine and say, right, hopefully this could get it going, you know. So it's very similar like that to us. So look, this has been a great conversation. So grateful for you to coming on a Saturday here. I know your time is less than limited these days, so I do appreciate it. I'd just like to wrap up with, how can people get in contact with you if they would like to get involved in terms of volunteering, or if they'd like to donate to the cause? If there's someone here maybe that's getting on in years and they've accumulated a nice few bob over the years and they're thinking, look, I don't want to give it all to my ingrate kids, or maybe their kids are like, no, they've all become successes themselves, so they might be thinking, look, this is something I'd like to, even like not even as a will donation. I mean, they might just say, here, I have a few €1,000 here, I'd love to, donate, and maybe on the odd Saturday, if I'm nothing on, I'd love to come up and help out and get involved and learn. So tell us, how can they get involved and how can they find us on the internet, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the most tech savvy person. So as far as I know, we have a website called, which is www.kyriefarm.ie. Kyrie is Kyrie, farm.ie. So you can get in touch with the farm through that, the volunteer. I think the website shows you the volunteering opportunities and how to get the veg boxes and that kind of stuff, as well as outlining the overall vision and mission of the charity. So that's probably the best place. As far as I know, we are on some sort of social media, maybe Instagram. I'm really not totally sure. So you can look around on the social media. I think you will find us somewhere.
Brilliant. So again, it's Kyrie Farm, Kyrie, and it's based in County Kildare. Ardlough, which is just outside of Selbridge, very near to Maynooth, which would be one of the most widely known towns in Kildare because of the university and, of course, in town there as well.
Exactly.
So yeah, look, that's brilliant. I think we've kind of covered everything. So once again, I really appreciate you coming on. Now, one thing I will say to you, because you know you've been the first guest here, should you land up to the farm on Monday, and the paparazzi are there, they're annoying you, they want to know how it went, just do what I do and ignore them. All right?
Yeah, I'll just do that. I probably, I'll just pretend I'm busy.
Yeah, exactly. Just put on the big sunglasses and walk on past them. Just ghost them. That's what I do when the paparazzi are annoying me. I pretend they're not even there. So,
I'll try not to get freaked out.
yeah, the big sunglasses are a must, you know. But look, I do appreciate you coming on again. Thank you so much. And I would be interested to touch base again maybe down the line when there's been some developments on the project. So maybe we could have a little discussion on where you are then versus where you are now. And yeah, I'll certainly be in touch. Yeah. I'm a busy man myself these days, but I'll certainly come up, maybe give a dig out one of the weeks, let's say towards September. I'm off for 3 weeks in September, so my plan was to come up maybe and give a dig out. So yeah, I will be in touch in regards to that anyway.
Yeah.
So listen, thanks again.
Hearts and opportunities around then,
Yeah, 100%.
All right, sounded.
I'll be glad to go up and scab a bit of free veg off you, you know.
Exactly, yeah, cool. Listen, we'll chat then, so.
Yeah, well, keep up the good fight, my friend. Yeah. I do appreciate it, and all the best. Thanks anyone who's listened. Cheers. Appreciate it. See ya. Bye-bye.